Let us begin by truly understanding what we mean when we speak of the evil eye, because without that clarity, the signs we are about to discuss may feel vague or even superstitious. The concept of the evil eye is not new. It has existed for centuries across continents and among cultures that never had any direct contact with one another. You will find it in Middle Eastern tradition, in Mediterranean societies, in Africa, Asia, even among the old tribes of South America. That alone should make us pause and think. If so many civilizations across history have spoken about the destructive power of envy, of negative attention directed at another, could there be a truth that humanity has long recognized but often ignored in our modern age? At its core, the evil eye is not simply about someone glaring at you with hatred. It is far deeper. It is the projection of negative energy born out of jealousy or ill will that affects the balance of your life. Some people may not even intend it consciously. A careless remark, a bitter glance, a concealed resentment, they can all translate into an energy that unsettles you, your children, or your home. This is why ancient wisdom and spiritual traditions have always emphasized the importance of humility when receiving blessings. Have you noticed that in many cultures, when someone praises you, they immediately add a prayer, a blessing, or words like mashallah, or God bless? That habit is not empty ritual. It is protection, an acknowledgement that admiration without blessing can carry unintended harm. Modern psychology actually gives us an interesting way to understand this phenomenon. We know that human beings radiate their emotions through tone, body language, and presence. We also know that stress, negativity, and envy are not just private feelings. They shape the environment around us. Think of a room where one person is seething with anger. Even if they say nothing, you feel it. The atmosphere becomes heavy, conversations falter, children become restless. That invisible weight is real, and the evil eye operates in that same dimension. It is negativity so concentrated, so sharpened, that it disturbs the natural flow of peace and blessing in a person's life. The home, therefore, is often the first place we notice its impact. A home is meant to be a sanctuary. It is where our spirits rest, where we recharge, where we gather with our families in safety. But when the evil eye intrudes, that sanctuary feels fragile. You sense something is off, but you cannot always explain it. Suddenly, your comfortable space feels exposed, vulnerable, and unsettled. This is why awareness is vital, not to become paranoid, but to become conscious. Conscious of what we allow into our homes, conscious of how we respond to blessings, conscious of the subtle signs that our environment is carrying more than just furniture and people. Philosophically, the evil eye is a mirror of human desire and weakness. It shows us the destructive side of comparison. When someone looks at another with envy, what they are really saying is, "Why not me?" That dissatisfaction with what they have transforms into a corrosive force. And if left unchecked, it doesn't just damage the one they look at, it eats away at them too. This is why wisdom traditions tell us to guard our hearts, to purify our intentions, and to speak with blessings on our tongues. Because when we cultivate gratitude and generosity of spirit, the negative energy does not find a place to anchor. You may wonder, is this only superstition, a story people told when they could not explain misfortune? I would challenge you to look around, notice how environments change when negativity dominates, notice how relationships crumble when envy is left unchecked, notice how your own energy shifts when you are around people who constantly belittle, compare, or undermine. Whether you call it psychology, energy, or spirituality, the effect is undeniable. The evil eye is simply a name given to one of the most ancient realities of human interaction. The power of our unseen intentions to affect the world around us. So, before we speak of the specific signs that the evil eye has entered a home, we must establish this. It is not a myth to be dismissed, nor is it a shadow to obsess over. It is a call to be more mindful of our blessings, more careful with our words, and more protective of our families. Because the moment you recognize its reality, you also recognize your responsibility. You cannot control the envy of others, but you can strengthen your household. You cannot stop people from looking, but you can guard your own heart from absorbing what they project. And that is why awareness matters. Once you understand the nature of the evil eye, you stop treating life's disturbances as random chaos. You begin to see patterns, you begin to notice shifts, and you learn to respond not with fear, but with wisdom. Remember this, the evil eye is real, but so is your power to protect, to bless, and to build a home that is stronger than any ill will directed at it. Awareness is the first shield. A house that once carried laughter and ease begins to feel heavy, as though something invisible is pressing on the hearts of those inside. Conversations that used to flow naturally start to turn into arguments. Small misunderstandings escalate into full conflicts. Even silence begins to feel loaded with unease. This is not coincidence, nor is it always the fault of personality differences. Often what you are witnessing is the spiritual and emotional disturbance that envy and negative energy bring into the atmosphere of your home. Think about how quickly harmony can unravel. A child who is usually cheerful suddenly becomes irritable, constantly crying or demanding attention. Parents who once enjoyed a rhythm of understanding suddenly find themselves clashing over trivial matters. Relatives visiting the home begin to feel restless, eager to leave rather than linger. All of this is a sign that the balance of peace within the household has been disturbed. What makes it more confusing is that there is rarely a clear reason. You ask yourself, why are we fighting? Why do I feel so unsettled? Why is my patience thinner than usual? That lack of explanation is part of what reveals that something deeper is at play. From a psychological perspective, tension is contagious. Neuroscience tells us that humans are wired with mirror neurons, meaning we pick up and reflect the emotional states of others. If one member of the household is weighed down by negativity, that energy does not remain isolated. It spreads. Children especially are sensitive to this shift. They absorb what is unspoken, and they act it out in behavior. So when the evil eye injects negativity into the home, it creates a ripple effect. One person feels anxious, another becomes short-tempered, a third reacts defensively, and before long, what should be a place of rest becomes a battlefield of moods. Philosophically, this teaches us something profound. A home is not built only of bricks and walls. It is built of relationships, emotions, and intentions. When we allow envy-fueled energy to take root, we invite an erosion of trust and affection. What is frightening about this erosion is how subtle it begins. Rarely does it start with a major fight. Instead, it creeps in quietly. It starts with eye rolls, with sarcasm, with frustration that lingers long after the issue has ended. Over time, this builds an environment where people feel less safe, less loved, less connected. That is precisely the aim of the evil eye, to fracture unity, to weaken bonds, to leave you drained and divided. But let us also reflect on our role in this. Sometimes we are quick to say, it must be the evil eye, when in truth, we ourselves are feeding the negativity by not managing our emotions, not guarding our speech, not showing gratitude. Awareness of the evil eye is not meant to absolve us of responsibility. It is meant to sharpen our vigilance. If we know envy can disturb peace, then we must be more intentional about nurturing peace. That means consciously practicing patience, seeking forgiveness quickly, and blessing our homes with words of kindness and prayer. Practical spirituality has always taught that love and mercy are shields against destruction. A family that prays together, that blesses each other, that consciously maintains respect, creates a wall of protection no negativity can easily penetrate. When tension arises, it is easy to assume the worst about one another. But if we remember that tension itself can be a sign of external disturbance, we approach one another with more compassion. Instead of saying, "You are the problem," we begin to say, "Something is affecting us. Let us strengthen ourselves together." That shift in mindset alone can neutralize the foothold of the evil eye. Do not underestimate the power of a calm environment. When you walk into a home that radiates serenity, you feel it instantly. Likewise, when you walk into a home filled with tension, you sense the heaviness even before words are exchanged. This is why traditions across the world emphasize reciting blessings, playing recitations, or filling the home with words of remembrance and gratitude. These practices are not just ritualistic. They are psychological anchors grounding us in positivity so the weight of negative energy does not dominate. So, when you notice persistent tension in your home that seems to have no logical cause, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this just a disagreement or is this a pattern? Are we being pulled apart by something unseen? Recognizing the difference can save your family from months or even years of unnecessary conflict. Awareness allows you to respond wisely, to cleanse your home with positivity, to realign your relationships, and to resist the subtle invasion of negative energy. Let us be clear, tension is not always a sign of weakness. Sometimes it is the alarm bell, the signal that you need to protect what is precious before it is eroded. And if the evil eye seeks to turn love into hostility, then your responsibility is to double your commitment to love, mercy, and unity. That is how you protect your home. Remember this. A divided home is an easy target, but a united home, bound by love and conscious awareness, is stronger than any evil eye. The next part of the speech. One of the most telling signs that the evil eye has entered your home is the sudden rise of persistent health issues that seem to have no clear explanation. I am not speaking about ordinary illnesses that come and go, the seasonal flu or the occasional fever. I am referring to a pattern where members of the family begin to feel drained, fatigued, or unwell without any medical reason doctors can point to. Perhaps you or someone close to you is constantly battling headaches, unexplained body pains, or a sense of heaviness that lingers no matter how much rest is taken. You go for tests, you change your diet, you try medication, yet the discomfort refuses to leave. This is not coincidence. It is one of the ways negative energy manifests itself within the body and the home. Why does this happen? Because the human body is not just flesh and bone. We are beings of energy, of spirit, of consciousness. When the environment is burdened by envy or negativity, the body absorbs that burden. Just as stress can cause ulcers, or anxiety can lead to insomnia, so too can the evil eye weigh down the body, leaving it vulnerable and weary. And what makes this sign so difficult to identify is that it disguises itself as ordinary sickness. We begin to treat it as though it were only physical, forgetting that much of our well-being is deeply connected to the unseen, the emotional, and the spiritual. Modern psychology and medicine already recognize the phenomenon of psychosomatic illness, the idea that the mind and emotions can create very real physical symptoms. Think of how someone under immense stress may lose their appetite, suffer from migraines, or develop skin problems. The pain is real, yet the root is not purely biological. The evil eye functions in a similar way, magnifying unseen negativity until it imprints itself on the body. This is why families often report that when they strengthen their spiritual practices, the unexplained illnesses begin to fade, even though doctors had found no cure. Philosophically, this teaches us something profound about human vulnerability. We like to believe we are in full control of our health, that as long as we eat well, exercise, and seek medical care, everything will be fine. But life constantly reminds us that we are not invincible. Illness can strike without warning, and sometimes the most disciplined lifestyle cannot prevent it. The evil eye exposes this fragility in a unique way. It reminds us that our health is not only a matter of biology, but also of the unseen forces we invite or protect ourselves against. Gratitude, humility, and prayer are as vital to well-being as food and medicine. Now, let us be clear, it would be wrong, even irresponsible, to attribute every unexplained illness to the evil eye. Medical investigation is necessary, and science is a gift we must never ignore. But when all avenues have been explored and the suffering continues, we must be open to the possibility that what we are dealing with is not purely medical. This is where awareness becomes protection. Because the danger lies not only in the illness itself, but in the despair it creates. When a family feels powerless, constantly exhausted, unable to find relief, that despair opens the door for greater negativity to settle in. The evil eye thrives in that hopelessness. So, what can we do? The first step is not to dismiss. If persistent, unexplained sicknesses are present, take them seriously as potential signs of something deeper. The second step is to strengthen the spiritual environment of the home. Words of blessing, prayers, recitation, even the simple act of expressing gratitude out loud, these create a shield. They remind the body and soul that we are not helpless, that we are connected to a source of healing greater than any force of envy. Families that make this a habit often find that not only do the mysterious illnesses fade, but their resilience against ordinary stress and fatigue also increases. The energy of the home shifts and the body reflects that shift. And finally, we must cultivate a mindset of humility when we are blessed with health, because one of the roots of the evil eye is the unguarded display of blessings without acknowledgement of their source. When you show off without gratitude, you draw envy. But when you receive health as a trust, humbly, and you share blessings with others, you weaken the hold of envy before it even begins. So the next time you or your loved ones face an illness that lingers without explanation, do not only ask, "What medicine can I take?" Also ask, "What energy am I surrounded by? What intentions have entered my home? What prayers have I neglected?" In those questions lies both diagnosis and cure. Remember this: health is not only the absence of sickness, it is the presence of balance, body, mind, and spirit aligned. And when the evil eye seeks to disturb that balance, your greatest protection is awareness, prayer, and gratitude. Another sign that the evil eye may have entered your home is when you begin to notice persistent financial struggles and blockages that simply do not add up. Money, opportunities, and resources seem to slip away in ways that defy explanation. A business that was once steady suddenly collapses without a clear reason. A job offer you were sure of evaporates at the last moment. Unexpected expenses keep appearing: repairs, medical bills, accidents, draining your savings faster than you can replenish them. It feels as though no matter how hard you work, the results never match the effort. Instead of growth, you find yourself stuck in cycles of loss and frustration. Now, financial challenges are a natural part of life. Every household faces ups and downs, but when those struggles become constant, when the setbacks feel unnatural in their timing and intensity, that is when one must stop and reflect. Could it be that the blessings you were enjoying have drawn the envy of others? Could it be that negative energy has attached itself to your provision, creating obstacles where there should be openings? It is important here to look at the deeper meaning of wealth. Wealth is not only measured in coins and notes. It is about sustenance, stability, the ability to provide for your family, and the peace of knowing your efforts bear fruit. When the evil eye strikes, it does not necessarily mean you will lose every possession. More often, it manifests as the draining of barakah, blessing. You still have income, but it does not stretch. You still work, but progress is painfully slow. You still receive, but the joy of receiving disappears because losses always follow. The flow of abundance becomes blocked, and that blockage weighs heavily on the spirit. From a psychological perspective, these financial blockages are devastating, not just materially, but emotionally. Money is tied to our sense of security. When it keeps disappearing, fear creeps in. Anxiety over bills, stress over debts, and frustration over wasted effort begin to dominate the atmosphere of the home. This tension feeds arguments between spouses, worry among children, and despair in the hearts of those who are trying their best. What we see, then, is not just a financial problem. It is an emotional and spiritual erosion of hope. And that erosion is precisely what the evil eye thrives on. Philosophically, wealth has always been seen as a trust rather than an entitlement. When we forget that, we risk attracting envy without protection. Flaunting blessings without gratitude invites attention, and attention without blessing can turn into envy. This is why traditions teach us to be discreet with wealth, to share what we have, and to constantly attribute our provision to God. When we are careless with this, we open the door for others' resentment to take shape, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes deliberately. That resentment can carry the energy that disrupts the flow of our sustenance. But here is where wisdom comes in. While the evil eye can indeed cause financial blockages, our response must never be despair. Struggles, whether caused by natural cycles or negative energy, are opportunities to reset. They remind us that provision does not come solely from our efforts, but from the one who controls all means. When we tie ourselves too tightly to material calculations, We forget the unseen reality that sustenance is also spiritual. A small income with blessing can sustain a family far more than a large income stripped of barakah. So how do we protect ourselves when financial struggles seem to signal the evil eye? First, we return to gratitude. Even in the tightest times, acknowledging what we still have weakens the grip of negativity. Second, we adopt humility and discretion, avoiding unnecessary displays of wealth that may provoke envy. Third, we fortify the home spiritually, recognizing that financial protection is as much about prayer and blessing as it is about budgeting and planning. Families that remember this often find that their provision stabilizes even in modest circumstances. The flow of blessing is restored because the home is no longer leaking energy through fear, pride, or neglect. When your household faces financial setbacks, do not only ask what went wrong in the market. Also ask what unseen forces are affecting our provision. How are we protecting our blessings? Have we forgotten to express gratitude? By asking these questions, you move from helplessness to awareness and from awareness to action. Remember this, true wealth is not measured by the size of your bank account, but by the presence of blessing in your life. And when the evil eye seeks to drain that blessing, your strongest defense is humility, gratitude, and the conscious protection of your sustenance. Another sign that the evil eye has taken root in your home is when the very atmosphere feels heavy, when you notice disturbances that go beyond arguments or financial struggles, and instead touch the very spirit of your household. A home is not just a structure of walls and furniture. It is an environment charged with energy, a container of the emotions, intentions, and actions of the people who live in it. When the evil eye enters, that energy shifts in ways that are difficult to explain logically but are unmistakable to experience. You may find that sleep becomes restless, filled with unsettling dreams. Children who once slept peacefully now wake at odd hours, crying without cause. You yourself may wake up more tired than when you went to bed, as though the night gave you no rest. Pets in the home might behave strangely, barking or meowing at empty spaces, restless without reason. Plants that were thriving suddenly wither despite proper care. Objects in the house may break more often, or accidents keep happening in ways that feel strangely repetitive. Each of these on their own could be dismissed, but when they begin to pile together, the pattern reveals something deeper. The sanctuary of your home has been disrupted by a force that does not wish you well. Psychologically, the home is supposed to be a place of recovery. After a day of stress, we expect to return to peace. When that peace is absent, the mind and body cannot recharge. Over time, the stress multiplies, and families begin to feel constantly on edge. This is why disturbances in the home cut so deeply. They rob us of the one space we rely on for stability. And the evil eye, with its nature of envy and negativity, thrives when your sanctuary feels unsafe, when your rest feels incomplete, and when your spirit begins to carry exhaustion without a clear cause. Philosophically, this reveals the delicate balance between the seen and unseen. We decorate our homes, we buy furniture, we secure our doors with locks, but how often do we secure the unseen dimensions of the home? Just as dirt builds up in corners and requires cleaning, so too can spiritual residue build up from the envy of visitors, the intentions of those who glance at our blessings, or even from our own negligence in maintaining gratitude and humility. A home without remembrance, without conscious blessing, becomes vulnerable, not because the walls are weak, but because the energy inside has no shield. In many cultures, you will notice that people instinctively bless a new home with prayer, recitation, or symbols of protection. Why? Because they understand that it is not enough to fill a house with possessions. It must be filled with light. Without that light, the evil eye finds cracks through which it seeps, creating disturbances that may appear small, but are deeply corrosive over time. A restless night here, a broken item there, a sudden sense of dread when walking through certain rooms. These may all seem minor until you realize they are symptoms of the same disease, an environment touched by negativity. Now, it is important not to fall into paranoia. Life is full of ordinary disturbances, but when you notice a cluster of them, when negativity becomes the norm rather than the exception, it is wise to ask, is this only chance, or is this a sign that our home has been affected by unseen forces? That awareness alone can transform how you respond. Instead of ignoring it, you begin to purify the environment consciously. You might open the windows and let in fresh air. You might recite prayers aloud. You might bring the family together for moments of reflection and gratitude. These simple acts, repeated consistently, cleanse the unseen atmosphere in the same way sweeping removes visible dust. The evil eye thrives on unnoticed entry. It works silently, disrupting without being named. But the moment you recognize the pattern, you strip away its power. Because naming the disturbance shifts your mindset from victimhood to guardianship. You begin to see your home not just as a place to live, but as a space to protect, to honor, to fill with light. So if you find yourself walking into your home and feeling heavier rather than lighter, if you notice disturbances that leave you uneasy, pause and reflect. Do not only ask, what broke this time? Ask instead, what has entered this home? How can I restore its peace? That shift in perspective allows you to act with wisdom rather than frustration, with faith rather than fear. Remember this, a house becomes a home when it shelters your spirit. And when the evil eye seeks to turn your sanctuary into a place of unrest, your duty is to cleanse, to bless, and to restore the light that no negativity can extinguish. When we speak of protection and prevention, we are not simply talking about rituals or superstitions. We are talking about a conscious way of living that acknowledges both the seen and the unseen. The evil eye, as we have explored, manifests through envy and negativity, disturbing our health, our peace, our finances, and our very sense of harmony at home. But just as there are signs of its presence, there are also ways to guard against it. And this protection does not begin with external charms or objects. It begins with the heart and the mindset of the people within the home. The first layer of protection is gratitude. When you live in a constant state of thankfulness, you disarm the grip of envy before it can even settle. Gratitude is not only about saying thank you, it is about living with humility, acknowledging that every blessing is a trust, not a trophy. When you display your blessings as though they are your own achievement, you invite attention. But when you receive them with humility, blessing them with words like mashallah, or God has willed it, you create a shield around them. That shield is not just spiritual, it is psychological too. Gratitude keeps your family focused on what you have rather than what you lack, and that shift in focus itself weakens the power of negative energy. The second layer of protection is remembrance. Every tradition, every faith has taught the importance of words, recitations, prayers, affirmations that cleanse the space around us. Words carry vibration, and vibrations shape atmosphere. A home where blessings are recited, where prayers are uttered, where gratitude is spoken aloud, feels different from a home filled only with complaints and arguments. You can sense the difference immediately. The evil eye feeds on environments of neglect, where blessings are taken for granted and words of remembrance are absent. But when your home resonates with positive words, with remembrance of the divine, with intentional speech, that resonance repels negativity before it can find a foothold. The third layer of protection is generosity. Nothing weakens envy like sharing your blessings with others. When you give openly, whether through charity, kindness, or even simple hospitality, you diffuse the very energy that fuels the evil eye. Envy thrives in scarcity, in the belief that there is not enough for everyone. But generosity affirms abundance. It says, I have enough to give, and I trust the source to replenish. This mindset not only guards your home, but also transforms the hearts of those around you. When your blessings uplift others, envy is replaced with admiration, and admiration accompanied by blessing brings barakah into your life rather than harm. Then comes the practical layer of protection, consciously cleansing your environment. This can be as simple as maintaining cleanliness, opening windows for fresh air, lighting your space with natural light, or reciting prayers aloud. It can mean placing symbols of protection in your home if your tradition prescribes it. It can mean gathering the family regularly to sit together in peace, to eat, to pray, to laugh. These actions, though simple, create an environment that is harder for negativity to disturb. Just as you would lock your doors against thieves, you lock your unseen doors against the intrusion of envy by creating an environment of light. Philosophically, protection from the evil eye is about intentional living. It is about recognizing that life is not neutral, that blessings must be guarded, and that homes must be nurtured. Too often, we assume that if we achieve material success, peace will follow automatically. But we have seen that without protection, success can attract envy, and envy can disrupt everything. True protection is the awareness that every blessing is both a gift and a responsibility. Psychologically, this approach empowers us. When you recognize the signs of the evil eye and practice prevention, you no longer feel like a helpless victim of unseen forces. You step into the role of guardian, protector, custodian of your home's energy. That mindset shift alone brings peace because fear is replaced with action, and action, when guided by faith and wisdom, is itself a shield. So the question is not whether negativity will come at will. The question is whether you will allow it to settle in your home, or whether you will meet it with gratitude, remembrance, generosity, and conscious protection. The choice is always yours. Remember this: the evil eye may seek to harm, but it has no power over a home filled with light, humility, and gratitude. Protect your blessings, guard your family, and live with intention, for in that intention lies the shield that no negativity can break.